So in the last lecture we mentioned some special types of template tags that can only be used inside the loop. So you might have heard of the loop before if you have a prior WordPress experience, but let's have some deeper understanding of what the loop really does. So template tags like the title can actually be used outside of the loop, but only if you provide an ID. So if you provide an ID, it would go to the database and find the title of a post with an ID 4. If you don't, on the other hand, it will get the title from a global variable called post. And in case you don't know, a global variable in PHP is a variable that can be accessed from any file or even from inside a function. So the loop is basically responsible for setting this global variable post so that you can use template tags without providing an ID to get information about the current post in this global post variable. So I know this might sound a bit vague, so let's now write some code and then we will take a deeper look on how the loop actually works. So always make sure first that you have your MEMP server open and then open your browser on the project directory. So we had some dummy text here in index.php. Let's finally replace this with some real code. So to start the loop, we must check first if we have any posts. So we'll use a function called havePosts inside an if condition. And let's now close the if condition and the PHP tag, and then we'll have to write some else statement here. So if you don't have any posts, maybe you would like to display some message, right? So inside the p tag, let's just put some message and then close the p tag. Now if you have posts, we will start our loop, right? So in a while loop, we will check if we still have posts using the same havePosts function. So now that we are inside the loop, we can now use template tags. But before using template tags, we must call a function called the post. And that's very important. Without calling the post, we might run into an infinite loop. And we'll see why in the next lecture. But for now, you can think of the post as a function that will make the post global variable point to the right post so that template tags will work properly inside the loop. So inside an h2 tag now, let's get the title. So I'm gonna open an anchor tag inside the h2 tag. And in the href, let's open PHP and call our first template tag, the permalink. This template tag will obviously get the link for this blog post. And then inside the anchor tag, let's call the title. So inside PHP tags, let's call the title. And let's remove these arguments. We won't need to add any arguments. And then let's close the PHP tags. So next you might want to add a title attribute to the anchor tag. So let's add the title attribute and let's open PHP. And then let's call the title again. So the title, however, can contain some characters that are not allowed in an HTML tag, like single and double quotes, for example. So WordPress provides another template tag called the title attribute, and this will be the same as the title. However, it will just be cleaned up to be used as a valid title attribute. So let's now go to the browser and refresh and see what's going on. And as you can see, we have our titles. And let's inspect and make sure we have the attributes and everything. And as you can see, everything is looking fine. So let's now add another thing. Let's open an empty div and let's display some more information about the post. So first let's display the date of the post. So I'm gonna type posted on, and then I'm gonna add the date as a link, and this link will be the link of the post, the permalink. As you'll see later, some posts might not have a title, so it's always a good idea to allow users to go to the post by clicking on the date of the post. And as you can see here, I did not use the permalink. I used a function called getPermalink. If you are completely new to WordPress, here's a quick note. Functions that start with the usually echoes the result, and that's why we don't have to add echo before calling the function. On the other hand, functions that start with get usually just return the output, and that's why we have to echo it. So I'm gonna open a time tag now to display the time. And make sure you always use HTML5 tags whenever applicable. These tags will make your theme much better in SEO and also accessibility. I'm just gonna add some lines here to make this more legible. And let's now display the date. And to display the date, I'm gonna use another template tag called getTheDate. And this function receives the date format as an argument. So let's go and check the documentation for getTheDate function. And as you can see, the first argument is a PHP date format. And it gives you a link to the PHP date format. And if we open that, you will find, some different characters that will map to different date formats. So let's copy this example and let's add it as an argument to our function. So each one of these characters will be replaced with something. So the small l will be the full day name, the capital F will be the full month name, and j will be the day number, and y will be the year. We will also need to add some attribute to the time tag, which is the datetime. So let's see the description for the datetime attribute, and it represents a machine readable datetime of the time element. So in order to add this attribute, we will use the same getTheDate function, only this time we will use a different format. So as we saw inside the time tag, we can use whatever formatting we would like, because that's what humans see. The datetime attribute, however, is what search engines see, right? So it must be formatted in a specific way. And this specific format corresponds to the character small c in the PHP date format. So let's go back now to the browser and see, and now we have our dates in the format we wanted. But now I'm gonna go back and remove that format, and that's because getTheDate function by default returns the date in the format the user chose in the WP admin. And by adding a format here, you're kind of forcing the user to have a specific format that they can actually change in the WP admin. So most of the time you won't have to provide a format for the date functions. Let's now add another information about the post, which is the post author. So what we need to do is we need to echo the name of the author and then wrap this name of the author with a link, and this link will take us to a page that contains only the posts of this author. So to get this link, we can use a template tag called getAuthorPostsURL, and this function needs as an argument the ID of the author. And to get the ID of the author, we will use another function called getTheAuthorMeta, and this function can get a lot of information about the author, so we need to specify which information we need. So we need the ID, and then inside the anchor tag we need to display the author's name. So let's inside the a tag open PHP and use another template tag called getTheAuthor. Great, so let's now go back to the browser and let's see what we have. And sure enough, we have the author name, and if you click on one of the authors, you will have a page for the specific author, and it will only contain the posts of this author. So let's now go and display one more information about the post. Let's display the excerpt, and the excerpt is a short summary of your blog post. So inside a new div, I'm gonna call a function or a template tag which is called the excerpt, and the excerpt can be either auto-generated from the post content, or you can specify a custom excerpt when you are creating the post. And now if you go back to the browser and refresh, you will find the short summaries for each blog post. Let's finally add one more thing. Let's add a read more link, which is a link that will just take us to the single blog post page. So let's add an anchor tag, and in the href we will add the permalink to the post. So echo get permalink, and we'll also need to have a title attribute for the a tag. So let's copy it from there and just paste it. It will be the same. And then let's type read more inside the a tag. Let's take a look now, and we have now a read more link. And if we click on it, it takes us to the single blog post. So that's great, but there is something that we can do here that can improve accessibility. And in case you're not familiar, accessibility refers to making a website accessible to everyone, including people with disabilities. So for instance, if a user who can't see is browsing our website, he will be using a screen reader. And a screen reader is a software that reads out loud the content of a website. So in our case, if the user is navigating through this link, the screen reader will read out read more, but the user will have no idea read more about what. So I'm gonna do something now that will tackle this. I'm gonna open a span tag and then give it a class of u-screen-reader-text. And currently this class will do nothing because we haven't yet loaded any CSS. But let's just for now type in the span, let's type some additional text to the read more link. So let's type about and then the title of the post. So when we load our CSS later in the course, this class will hide whatever inside it. So it will only be available for screen readers. For normal users, however, the button will read more without any extra text. So let's go now to the browser and see what we have. And as you can see, we have read more about template sticky, read more about hello world, and so on. When we load our CSS, it will just be read more. However, screen readers will hear it read more about something. So accessibility is actually a big topic. In this course, from time to time, I'm gonna give you some tips about how to make your website more accessible. But it's actually a big topic. You might need to maybe watch a separate course for it if you want to know more about it. So just one final thing for this lecture. We now have some posts, but these are not all the posts. We need to have pagination in order to see all the posts, right? So after the while loop, after the curly braces of the while loop, let's add another template tag which is called the posts pagination. And that's really it. Let's take a look now and refresh, and as you can see, we have pagination and we can browse through pages. So I think that's it for this lecture. We now have our loop and we are displaying information about each post, but we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what the have posts function does and what the post function does. So let's try and figure this out in the next lecture.